A California teacher is under fire for posting a Nazi flag up in their room. AOC is leading the efforts to stop the arms deal with Israel. And the Prime Minister of Israel brushes off Joe Biden. And I have a lot to say about that. Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Before we get into our lead story, please take a moment right now to hit that like button. It really does help support the channel, as well as push the YouTube algorithm to show other viewers my content and my channel. And if you want to support a new conservative talk show like the Bald Brad Show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, but also the bell notification button so you're notified whenever we upload a video or go live, which is every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I looked at the data. A lot of people that are watching the show, about 80% of the viewers, are not subscribed. So again, by you subscribing, it is for free. It really does help the channel, and it will also notify you when the Bald Brad Show again goes live. And with that being said, our lead story of the day comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire. If you're not already a member, please go over and become a subscriber today. It is written by Beth Bauman, and it is titled, "California High School Teacher Comes Under Fire After Displaying Multiple Nazi Flags in the Classroom." The San Juan Unified School District, which is south of me, launched a full investigation after reports of a teacher displaying multiple Nazi flags inside their classroom. According to the Sacramento Bee, the information came to light when an anonymous Instagram account named Change for Rio posted a picture of flags from Nazi Germany allegedly hanging in a classroom at Rio Americano High School. The author encouraged students to contact district officials about the flags. And then there's a whole trigger warning thing here. It says, "Trigger warning. The caption stated in all caps, please spread this around and get the word out. This is absolutely unacceptable. Rio has a history of not doing anything about things like this, so we need as many people as possible to know." In quotes, it also says, "This is incredibly harmful to minority students." I don't know how it's harmful. Now, I understand that you wouldn't like the Nazi flag for what it stands. I fully get that. But, as we go into the article, we'll see what type of teacher this is. Is it a history teacher? Is it a government teacher? Because they might just be displaying the flags throughout the year as they go over a topic. Maybe they're going over World War II. Maybe they're going over the crimes of Nazi Germany. Maybe they're going over fascism, socialism, and the connection between Hitler and Mussolini. Who knows what they're doing? It doesn't mean that this teacher is a Nazi. It doesn't mean they support Nazism. And I kind of go back to if you were to walk into Jordan Peterson's house, you would see a lot of totalitarianism kind of artwork, flags. You would see a lot of socialist things in there as well, Marxist. So he has this stuff decorated all throughout his house, but he completely condones those types of things. So just because you have something posted in your room doesn't mean that you full on support it. It could be used as a learning opportunity when you go to it later. Very similar to if I was in mathematics. I understand it's a little bit different. I would have posters in my room of different mathematical formulas. So while I'm teaching, I go ahead and point to it, talk about it. It creates a conversation. It creates a story as well. So that's very similar to what could be happening here. I'm not saying it is, but could be. And students shouldn't be triggered over stuff like this. If I were to walk into a classroom in high school or even in college today, and I saw a professor with the Black Lives Matter flag or maybe a socialist flag, I'd think, oh, that's kind of stupid. But hey, you know what? That's their right to post that stuff. And, it is what it is, and move on with your day. It's not a big deal. But, people get triggered over anything. I've had people get triggered over my red hat before. I've had people get triggered over the things that I wear, which is just casual clothing, normal clothing. I've had people get triggered for me saying that I want them to be successful. Why would you want me to be successful? That's just coming from you as a white privileged cisgendered man, or whatever the hell they were saying. So anything and everything is going to be ultimately triggering people nowadays. It also goes on to say, even if it is for history, multiple students have said it makes them extremely uncomfortable. So I guess maybe it is for history class. So that's fine if it's making you feel uncomfortable. There's certain things in history that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. There's a lot of horrific things that mankind has done. Certain countries have done. There's a lot of stuff that these kids just nowadays aren't being shown and talked about in regards to socialism, communism, all basically the isms that ultimately have done horrendous acts throughout history. Heck, I was just talking on the show a few months ago about Nikki Haley's book, With All Due Respect is what it's called. If you want to check it out, please read it. It's a great book. But she talks about how she was in a Middle East country and how she couldn't understand what was going on with all the women. So she brought them in a tent, and all the women had talked about how they were being gang raped by all the men, how they were being beaten to death, how they were being beheaded. All these things were happening to them. And one woman's story was she watched all her friends get completely slaughtered after being gang raped. And then they threw her baby into a fire and then sat there and made her eat her baby after it was just burned alive. So, I'm not saying you need to teach that in the classroom, but what I'm saying is that there's horrendous things that are still going on in the world today that a lot of Americans aren't accustomed to seeing or hearing about. And so they're going to just project all their hatred towards America rather than those other countries that are doing these horrible acts, these horrible heinous crimes to human beings every single day, even right now. But you know what? America is systemically racist. America has all these problems, not these other countries that are still beheading people, throwing gay people off buildings, still bombing the crap out of ordinary people like the Jews. We won't talk about those types of things, but we need to talk about how this is so triggering the students for seeing a Nazi flag in a classroom. And by the way, I'm not for Nazis. I'm not for racism. I'm not for what Hitler did. I'm not for any of those things, but I don't think you should be getting upset just because you see something in a classroom that you don't like and you don't like what it stands for. That's all I'm saying. Especially if it's a history class. For the love of God. You're going to see a lot of things in history that you don't like, that you don't stand for, that you're not into, that might go, this is uncomfortable. Yeah, welcome to history. Welcome to human civilization. There's a lot of crap that humans have done that's disgusting and despicable. But, you can't talk about those things because that's too soft. It's going to hurt my feelings. It's harmful. You're hurting me. Please contact the district and let them know of this. Hanging a swastika in a classroom is unacceptable under any circumstances. I'm sorry, I just disagree. As a teacher, I completely disagree. Again, I'm not for it, but I think there's good learning opportunities for you to bring it in. You can show people, even if it's just for a lesson of that day. You can hang multiple Nazi flags around the room. You're having a discussion about Germany. This is what Germany was like. This is what Germany looked like. This was the problems with Germany. This is what we can learn from them. This is what the Nazi flag looked like. Here, pass it around, touch it, feel it, whatever. Make it more hands-on. Make it more interesting. That's what this teacher could be doing year in and year out. Who the heck knows? But yet you just have somebody in here just posting a random trigger warning, anti-Semitism, mentions of the Holocaust and violence. Yeah, welcome to the Holocaust. There was a lot of violence and death. Yes, that's what the Holocaust was. That's why we should learn about it. But, you can't do that. By the way, there's a ton of American youth, you guys. Look this study up. I forgot the actual number of it. Look up the statistic. Go Google this right now. Look up the statistics on how many American youth don't know that the Holocaust ever happened. They don't know about it. Go look that up. It's truly astonishing. There's a ton of people that have no idea about the Holocaust. Have no idea that it ever even happened. So this is where our education system is going. As a teacher, I'm telling you where it's going. So again, I see it all the time. They're learning socialism is good, communism is good. I know people don't believe me, but it's being said in the classroom openly that this stuff is good. And then you wonder why it's producing all these types of college students that are going in saying socialism good, communism good. That's why you see AOC always in the news. You see Bernie Sanders always in the news. You see the Democratic Party shifting more left because these Democrats are coming out of high school and into college, and college is going even further with it and ultimately brainwashing these kids to be full-on socialist, and will end up destroying our country sooner or later if conservatives and Republicans don't stand up against it. That's why it's so important to like this show, you guys. I know it is self-promoting. I fully get that. But at the same time, this is how we fight back against the culture. This is how we fight back by subscribing and liking the channels like this one, and then going on Reddit and sharing these types of videos, or Ben Shapiro videos, going on Facebook and sharing these videos and getting the likes out there so channels like this can grow grassroots and we can have another conservative talk show out there. And the hopes is that somebody else pops up and we continually grow, and so we can get our viewpoints out there, and hopefully we can fight back against this brainwashing that's going on, this critical race theory, the 1619 Project stuff, this whole idea that America is racist, systemically evil, that we can't talk about things because it's going to trigger people and make them feel upset and not all warm and cozy inside. It's just frustrating, man. There's certain conversations you can't have because as a teacher, because you'll get in trouble. And it's like it's such like a normal concept, and students take it as all political. It's unbelievable. You could talk about, I teach consumer math is one of the subjects other than statistics that I teach. And some things you're just talking about how business works, and students will take it as political. Mind you, I was an accountant for like 10 years. I think I have a little bit of understanding how a business works and functions and can make money. But, because the things that I say come out conservative, which they're not intended to come out that way, by the way, it's just how a business is ran, and people tend to be fiscally conservative with their money. I understand I'm using the word fiscal in maybe a different definition, but you understand where I'm going with it, is that usually accountants tend to be conservative because they conserve not just certain values within money, but they also conserve money in general. And that's why they tend to be prosperous when it comes to a business, because they understand how conservatism works. And so it just comes out that way, but they get all upset because you can't make money as a businessman, especially as a white businessman, guys, because you know what? You're putting down other minority business owners. You're competing against them, and you can't compete against them because the system is for you and not for them. And what you're doing is ultimately you're taking their jobs, you're taking their competition, you're taking their customers, and that's white supremacy, because now you're just shrouding all over them, and you're hovering over them, and now you're ultimately you're stopping them from growing. Do you see where I'm going with this? That's why it's kind of white supremacy, folks. Because you're holding them down, you as a competitive business owner. It's just this type of stuff, and it's so annoying. It gets tiring after a while. But let's move on. I digress. It says the district released a statement saying that they condemn hate. Okay. Last week, a teacher at Rio Americano High School had several flags from Germany on display in their class, including a flag from Nazi Germany. The Nazi flag is a long-standing symbol of hate and does not represent the culture and values of our school or our district. But I guarantee you the school's probably fine with the whole Black Lives Matter, the fist, Black Panther stuff being worn. They're all for all that stuff, George Floyd and all that stuff, right? All this stuff the left posts, but when you post something from history that students could probably learn from, it's all of a sudden hate. If somebody wore an Antifa shirt at school, I'm sure they wouldn't even bat an eye over it. The people that ultimately beat the shit out of their citizens, light businesses and public-private property on fire, destroy people's public and private property, go after the police, hurt the police, end up taking entire autonomous zones out for themselves. Just the list goes on and on and on, but they're cool with that. But they're going to denounce this whole Nazi flag thing. Again, I can't say this enough. I'm against Nazis. I don't like it. But if it's a learning opportunity for students, even if it's a day or a month, because sometimes units do take a while to get through as you're teaching it, kind of like a chapter, it might be up there for a while, which would make sense on why maybe this teacher's taking it up and down throughout the school year. Who knows? A full investigation is currently underway into this incident. We're looking into why the teacher thought the flags were appropriate to use and ensuring both the instructor involved and others understand that this is not an acceptable way to teach any curriculum. The flags were removed from the classroom last week. We as a district stand for respect and inclusion. No, you don't. You don't. Because there's certain things that are happening to conservatives that you tell conservatives they can't talk about, or if somebody comes out as a conservative, you'll fire them. By the way, guys, I'm not kidding when I say that conservatives on campus are like hush-hush. Like, if you're going to have a conversation about politics as a conservative, you literally are looking around you, and if there's anybody, a student or anybody around you, you will go to an open classroom, meaning yourself or another teacher's classroom, and you will literally close and lock the door to have a conversation, and you will still whisper inside your classroom. As somebody that has seen this multiple times and has been involved in this type of conversation, talk about politics with another conservative, and we have to go into each other's rooms, lock the door and whisper in our room so nobody knows that we're like pro-Trump or something like that, or we're conservatives, because we don't want to be fired. This is real stuff. I hand to God I'm not making this up. And this isn't just one or two conservatives, a lot of conservatives. I went around for a lot of years. People thought I was a Biden supporter, okay, for a lot of years. And I understand there's a lot of conservatives. Why the hell would you do that? That's wrong, because I don't want to lose my career. I don't want to lose my job. But now it's kind of like, forget it. I don't think I should be suppressed in that way. I don't think I should be silenced in that way. If I get fired, then you know what? I'll go freaking work at McDonald's. That's just, it is what it is at this point. That's why I'm asking you guys to support, because at some point you're going to lose your job because you're a conservative. At some point you're not going to have a career, and this is the only thing you have is YouTube. So again, I know this whole show is going to be me talking about various news, but also at the same time asking for your support, because we need to grow here. And that also, you guys helping me out by posting this again all over social media or my other videos that you like that can entertain other people. A letter similar to the district statement was sent to parents about the incident. One parent indicated this was the first time this particular teacher had the Nazi flags. This wasn't the first time this particular teacher had the Nazi flags on display. I don't think that makes the students in his classroom feel like he cares about them and that he actually cares that they learn anything. As an educator, your classroom should reflect a welcoming, inclusive environment. Well, no, I actually don't agree with that. It should be a welcoming, inclusive environment, because when you have 180 students, your classroom might not be welcoming to all. And that's kind of the issue we have here in today's education system. And I talked about this when I was doing my master's degree at USC, is the education now system expects the teacher to cater to 180 different students. When we were in school, you and I probably watching this show, it depends how old you are, but if in your 30s or greater, before it was the student catered to the teacher. That's not how it is anymore. The teacher has to cater to 180 different students. And I'll give you a prime example. I teach mathematics, so obviously a lot of students struggle in mathematics, meaning they have a lot of missing gaps of knowledge, meaning they didn't acquire certain skills through their time in education. And so by the time they reach high school, there's a lot of things that they don't know that are kind of in between. And so they have different, just basically puzzle pieces everywhere. And it's my job to kind of fill in those puzzle pieces as we go. Well, if you have 180 mathematical students and just one student each has a math issue, meaning a missing gap of knowledge, well, now you have 180 missing gaps of knowledge. And somehow I have to try to fix all of those while teaching normal content. That's just for one. Every student has a ton of missing gaps of knowledge. So now you do 180 times, I don't know, at least 10, right? Somehow you have to fix all those missing gaps of knowledge, but you have to cater to each individual student. It's not up to the individual student to go out on their own and have their own wherewithal to study concepts outside of the classroom to help teach themselves. There's kind of no excuse today is what I'm talking about, is because the amount of technology that we have, YouTube, Khan Academy, other software out there will teach you anything. You can go on, especially with COVID-19, you can search any instructor in the entire world and you'll have thousands of videos that are going to show you exactly what I teach all around the world. You don't even technically have to sit in a classroom anymore. And by the way, you haven't had to do this for years to learn anything that you would like. Literally anything. But, it's up to the teacher to cater to 180 different students by creating a welcoming and inclusive atmosphere. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying that you should be a complete a-hole. That's not what I'm saying. You should be loving and kind, of course. You should crack jokes in your classroom. You should have a welcoming environment. But to say that it should reflect a welcoming and inclusive environment as an educator, again, that's just not going to happen. It's just not. There's going to be students that don't like you. There's going to be students that do like you. There's students that hate the subject but like you. There's students that hate the subject and hate you at the same time. So it's just this, whoever's writing this, it looks like a parent just doesn't have a clue, or whoever the heck Kelly is. And I just love the fact it says, I don't think that makes the students in the classroom feel like they care about them. And he actually cares that they learn anything. I mean, to wrap your mind around that concept of by a teacher posting a flag up in their room and the teacher doesn't care that they learn anything. Like, where are you getting the evidence of that from? Just because maybe a student said, hey, can you take that down? You're like, hell no, it's my classroom, deal with it. And then that's just kind of to say, like, the teacher doesn't care about that student or doesn't care about what that student learns. I think that's extremely silly, and it kind of gives you the mindset of where maybe this parent or whoever's writing this specific quote or saying this specific quote kind of lies on the political spectrum. They're probably a Democrat and of the left and probably voted for Biden. But, hey, it is what it is. As a teacher herself, she said that she has never felt the need to display a permanent fixture of a Nazi flag in her classroom. And I haven't seen any evidence right now that this was a permanent flag in the classroom. Again, we don't know why this person posted this flag in the classroom. I keep saying that. But, we're just going to go ahead and make certain opinions about this person, about this teacher, that they're a crappy teacher. They don't care about their students. Their classroom's not an environment that is inclusive to teaching and not warming to all students. And it's not creating a positive classroom climate is what the language that we learn in our master's program and things like that. It's called positive classroom climate. That creates an environment that's inclusive for learning and all this other stuff. I don't want to bore you with all that crap. But, I mean, there you have it. So a California teacher has Nazi flags up in their room and people lose their shit over it. And again, I'm just going to say this again because I don't want anybody saying that I'm racist or some crap. I'm not for Nazi flags. I don't like that stuff. But if it's for the purpose of learning, especially a history class, I think you should have all sorts of flags around your room. I think you should have communist stuff in your room. I think you should have socialist stuff in your room. I think you should have capitalist stuff in your room. I think you should have heinous stuff, pictures of the Holocaust in your room. I think you should have all sorts of things in a history room, especially a government room, that can be used as opportunities for conversations for the students so they can see what happened in history so it doesn't repeat itself and happen today. But, you can't talk about these things anymore because students get all upset and they feel like you're hurting them. It's hateful, right? It's harmful to them. And by the way, guys, they're treating it as if it's a mentality thing, right? Is that it's so upsetting that they'll start crying, they'll start trembling, they'll have to go to the counseling office, all this stuff all over a Nazi flag. I'm not kidding. I'm not even joking about it. This is real stuff. This is what's happening in our education system. Take it as somebody that's in it. It's nuts. And, you can't help but feel for these kids because you want to help them. But at the same time, it's like you're going to go to college, you're going to be an adult, and you're going to have to deal with this stuff every single day. And it turns out there's going to be adults, practically everybody that you run into an encounter that doesn't know you, doesn't care anything about you, and they're going to say a lot of stuff to your face that you might not like, and you got to brush it off and move on. It's life. Welcome to life. I don't know. Now, in other news of the day, AOC is leading the effort here to block the sale of arms to Israel. If you remember, I said that Joe Biden was not just supporting or supposedly, allegedly supporting Hamas, but he also did an arms deal with Israel. I think it was about a little over 7 billion, I believe it was, or million. We'll find out right now. Guys, it is really hard for me to remember all the spending that Joe Biden is doing, if it's in the millions or billions or trillions. That's just how much spending it is, and you just can't remember anymore. It would happen to me as a tax accountant at times, or just a public accountant in general, where I had a client that was just spending money left and right, like sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes $1 million. And you're just like, when you're having a conversation about the person, you're like, I don't know what they're spending money on anymore, just because it's just money out the ass left and right. I can't remember at this point. That's how I feel with Joe Biden. He is spending so much money, I just can't remember it all, how much it was, where it's going, who's profiting from this, how is this going to impact the taxpayer, how much is this going to have an effect on of inflation. I mean, that's how crazy things has gotten, where you can't formulate it anymore without actually sitting down and studying it and memorizing all this stuff. But again, this comes from Fox News. It is written by Caitlin McFall, and she titles it, AOC Leads Effort to Block Arms Sale to Israel. New York Democrat Representative AOC introduced a resolution Wednesday to block a White House-approved $735 million arms sale to Israel. So there you go, $735 million, not billion. Congress-only Palestinian-American Representative Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat of Michigan, shocker there, right? And Representative Mark Pocan, I'm probably mispronouncing that person's name, Democrat of Wisconsin, shocker there, joined AOC's efforts. And we talked about this in yesterday's show, where the Democrats, on party lines, by the way, voted to block a bill that would ultimately stop a supporter or stop the support of Hamas. On party lines. So the Democrats were openly supporting basically Hamas through this vote. And I couldn't fathom, and by the way, I reflected on it, I still don't understand why the hell the Democrats would do that. The only thing that makes sense to me here is they support Hamas. They don't support Israel. But you see where the party lines are on this, where conservatives, look, we like Palestinians. We like Israelis. We want them to get along. But if you shoot rockets into Israeli territory, you deserve to get your ass bombed. That's just how it goes. We always use the analogy, look, if Mexico shot rockets over here into California, you're damn right I'd expect the freaking United States Air Force and the United States military to go and basically destroy whoever the hell did that. So I can't expect anything different from Israel. And I don't think there should be a ceasefire. Go in totality yet, because I'm tired of the whole rockets going back and forth thing. Figured out now. That's easy for me to say as somebody from America that's saying all this. But Hamas is a terrorist organization. They deserve to be obliterated. I don't think civilians should be killed. I'm being very clear about that. I don't think Israel should intentionally kill civilians, and I don't think they have. It's a little tough to bomb somebody when you're shooting freaking rockets at Israel from an apartment building. It's a little tough to shoot a rocket at somebody when they're firing it in between two apartment buildings in an alleyway. Okay? So it's a little bit of tough. It's a little tough to kill somebody when you're shooting rockets from a public square where there's a lot of civilians around, and the Palestinians are like, oh, okay, cool, we're shooting rockets at Israel. Huh, that's awesome, right? And then chanting things about death to Israel and all this other stuff, right? Extinguish the Jews, get rid of them, all this other stuff. But hey, they're peaceful people, all this other stuff. And I used the analogy yesterday as well. If Palestine, or if the Palestinians were to throw all their weapons into the sea, they had no weapons at all, Palestine would still exist. The Palestinians, Gaza would still exist, okay? If Israel did that exact same thing, Israel would cease to exist. They would be obliterated. They would be gone. And now you have the Palestinians go, oh, that's a little outrageous. That's silly. No, it's not. It's not. You literally want to see the Jews cease to exist. You openly say it, and then you're trying to say, well, no, we don't want that. But you openly chant this stuff out. What are you talking? It's like Iran, right? Iran doesn't want to see the West survive. Iran wants to see us obliterated. And they say death to America all the time in the streets. They burn American flags. They're chanting death to America all the time. We all get it. And they get it. They're not hiding behind that shit. They're like, yeah, we don't want to see them exist. We want to see them obliterated. We want to see America off the map, right? Which is why we don't like Iran. Which is why Iran doesn't fuck with us. Because if they did, they're ultimately going to get destroyed. Which is why I said when we had those Iranian gunships messing around with our military, blow one out of the water, they ain't going to screw with you anymore. I don't know why we let people screw with us, but when you have Joe Biden president, nobody's going to take him serious. And we'll get to that in a second because I commented on that earlier this week or last week when I said, look, when you have a weak president, foreign countries, whether it's ally or adversaries, aren't going to take the man seriously because he's freaking grandpa pooting around that freaking White House looking for his pudding and can't find it, doesn't know his name. He's asking for Joe when his wife's name's Jill. He's asking for Jimmy when it's Jen Psaki. He doesn't know what's going on. And so you have Prime Minister of Israel blowing him off. You got freaking Russia blowing off. You got China laughing at him during a meeting. So who the hell is going to take him serious? Who? His own American citizens aren't taking him serious with all the crises that are going on. He's screwing up the country. His own staff came out against him. So, I'm done rambling with all that. We need to get to this article here. But if you remember what the article was about, it was about AOC leading the whole efforts to stop this arms deal, which was $735 million. It goes on here to say the resolution seeks to block the sale of joint direct attack munitions. It's called JDAMs, a tail kit that converts dumb bombs into precision-guided missiles, which are believed to have been used in the recent conflict between Israel and Palestine terrorists. Okay. Here's AOC's tweet. The United States should not be rubber stamping weapon sales to the Israeli government as they deploy our resources to target international media outlets, schools, hospitals, humanitarian missions, and civilian sites for bombing. We have a responsibility to protect human rights, but not going to post anything, folks, about Hamas. This is how it works, you guys. People that support Hamas, support terrorist organizations, are actively in our government. Actively in our government. And they're going to always point to conservatives and the idiots that did the Capitol riots as terrorists and all this other stuff. Look, we all agree. They're idiots. We all get that. Do the whole thing you need to do, open up the whole investigation on that. I really don't give two, okay? I'm not the one that did it. Those people should be in trouble. I'm all for it. Open up all the investigations you want. Go freaking crazy. Who cares, right? Conservatives, we shouldn't care. All the people that were involved in it, go to jail. Bye. Adios. See you later. But this crap that you're posting saying like, oh, we shouldn't support an ally that's been freaking getting rockets shot at them. We shouldn't support them. I don't know how this lady gets elected. Whoever the hell the few thousand people that are supporting this chick, I don't get it. I honest to God don't get it. But you know what? She's running things perfectly, right? She's one of a perfect representative for the American public, especially her district. For decades, the U.S. had sold billions of dollars in weaponry to Israel without ever requiring them to respect basic Palestinian rights. But the Palestinians don't have to respect Israeli rights, right? That's how it comes down. It's only a one-way street with the Democrats. It's only straight evil. That's all it is. And I'm really getting to that point where they're a party that's constantly making evil decisions. And the thing is, they say that stuff about the right. And as I said yesterday, we just want to be left the hell alone. But when you're sitting there actively supporting a terrorist organization, that shit pisses me off. I don't like that. I'm sorry, I don't. I like Palestinian people. I'm making a distinction between Palestinian people and Hamas. I'm making a clear damn distinction, but they're not. And that's the issue. They are not. Conservatives are. Democrats want to support a terrorist organization. They're openly doing it right now from the United States government. And then you have conservatives over here that are supporting Israel and going after Hamas and saying, we don't want anything to do with the Palestinian people. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be fine. We would love for the two sides to get along. But what you have here is the Democrats choosing one side. I'm not choosing one side. I want the Palestinians to be fine, and I want the Israelis to be fine. I want Hamas gone. I feel like that's I don't know how much more clear I can be with that. I don't know how much more clear Ben Shapiro can be with that. I don't know. And it's very mind-boggling to me how they're lumping Hamas and Palestine like together, like the Palestinians together. I think they're separate groups. I fully think they're separate groups. And I think we should be very specific in our language when we're talking about this because there's dire consequences to it. Where you have AOC here just blurting out crap, which isn't uncommon for her to do. It's not uncommon to have Democrats just shout stuff to the streets that's ridiculous. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Look at Chuck Schumer. Look at Bernie Sanders. Look at Joe Biden. Look at Maxine Waters. Does the list need to... The fact that I can ramble these off the top of my head, who the hell can do that with conservatives other than saying, well, look at Trump. Look at what Trump says. Yeah, Trump said a lot of idiotic stuff. Okay. We got one guy and you got like 35, maybe 100 that just say knucklehead shit all the time. And now you have here supporting freaking a terrorist organization. Isn't that just freaking lovely? Unbelievable. I'd be so pissed if Republicans were doing this. I'd be so pissed. Borderline would not be a registered Republican anymore. And I'm not even kidding with that. If Republicans ever pulled this crap, I'm gone. Because I don't think that anybody should have rockets shot at them. If Israel started the rocket launch for no reason, then I'd be a little upset with Israel. But the fact that Hamas shot the rockets over, from my understanding of everything that I've freaking read, unless somebody wants to send me some evidence that's wrong, I believe this whole conversation, this whole issue that's going on right now, conversation, conflict that is happening, from my understanding, again, Hamas is the one that started the rockets in the most recent attempt. So that's where I'm leaving that. President Biden has urged both sides to stand down following the now 10-day-long violent conflict. Like, who the hell's going to listen to you, man? Honestly, you can't read a damn teleprompter. And look, I want Biden to do well. I can't agree. It doesn't mean I can't rip him. I'll do the same thing with Trump. But man, how is anybody going to take this guy seriously when he just looks lethargic? He looks freaking tired, man. He looks like he has a heart condition. If you ever seen somebody that has a failing heart before, it's kind of like Joe Biden, where they just look tired, worn out. They're out of breath all the time. Their skin doesn't look healthy. It's just, he doesn't look good, man. They can't think right. So it might not be dementia. It just might be he has maybe a failing heart. I don't think so, because I don't see the ascites in the belly and stuff. But I don't know, man. I just don't see how somebody could look at this and be like, man, that's a strong president. That guy could probably do 40 push-ups. I'm not saying the same thing about Trump. I mean, Trump couldn't probably do 40 push-ups either. But hey, you know what? The man moved around. He thought clearly. He said a lot of funny stuff. He at least was energetic, right? But Joe Biden just doesn't have anything, man. He's just a non-sentient human being. He's just like a body. It's like Weekend at Bernie's, just rolling this guy around the White House. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. Palestinian health officials have reported that more than 200 Palestinians have been killed, which is terrible, including 64 children. Israel has reported 12 deaths, including a 5-year-old boy. So clearly more deaths happening on the Palestinian side than Israeli side. And we would expect that, right? Because Israel on their side has alarms going off. They have bomb shelters that are readily available for their people. They also have the Iron Dome, where for the Palestinians, they don't have that stuff. So there's going to be a lot more casualties because there's no warning signs going off. Do they have some bomb shelters? I'm sure they do. But the vast majority of them, from what I've heard, I've never been over there, don't. They don't have an Iron Dome like Israel does. So Israel's prepared to be annihilated, and the Palestinians aren't. So why would... Look, if you weren't going to destroy Israel, why should Israel have an Iron Dome in the first place? Why the hell would they invest that kind of money and that kind of technology ever? Why would they need it? Palestinians... I should be clear. Hamas that has Palestinians in it, but Hamas, right, wants to destroy them, which is why they need a freaking Iron Dome. And by the way, they're surrounded by a bunch of other people that want to kill them as well. So, hey, you know what? What the hell do we know as conservatives, Republicans? What the hell do the Jews know? What the hell does Israel know? You know, you think I'm really going to leave it up to Democrats that want to abolish the police department? Do you think I'm really going to leave it up to the Democrats that don't know how the economy works to make these types of decisions? I don't think so. You think AOC knows anything about warfare? You think AOC, the one that worked at a bar, right, is a bartender, should be making these kind of decisions? You think that she knows this stuff? Have you ever seen her Instagram? I'm not saying I knew everything. I'm not saying I'm an angel. But at least I know when I say stupid crap. What she's saying is very stupid. Unbelievable. Well, you know, speaking of Joe Biden being a freaking doll walking around the White House, again, I want him to be strong. I want him to be powerful. He's our president. And I think it shows what America is and what America looks like in this moment is a reflection of our president. And when you have a president like this, it makes America look weak, which is why we have a report here also from Fox News by Adam Shaw, and he titles it, Yahoo brushes off Biden call for significant de-escalation in Gaza, says Israel determined to continue. And so no wonder he's blowing him off. No wonder the prime minister of Israel is blowing off Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's weak. And he's looking at him like, hey, what the hell are you going to do about it, man? What are you going to do? You're supporting Hamas. Why the hell would I listen to you? Your party is against us. Why the hell would I listen to you? And good for him for not listening to Biden. Screw him, man. You have every right as Israel to protect yourself. Don't listen to us and our president that's telling you to stop doing what you're doing. You have every damn right to protect yourself. I don't care who you are. If Israel launched rockets into Palestine or the Gaza Strip or whatever the heck it is, Okay, again, I've already said I'm very ignorant on this. Doesn't mean I don't have clear opinions on certain things. My opinion is whoever it is has the right to defend themselves. So again, if Israel started it, then hey, launch rockets back at Israel. You shouldn't have done that. If America shoots, say, in Southern California, shoots rockets willy-nilly in Mexico, I would expect Mexico to retaliate because you did something stupid. That's what happens. You punch somebody in the face, you probably deserve to get your ass kicked. And that's why Hamas is begging Israel to stop shooting rockets at them, because now they realize that they pissed the guy off, and now Israel just punching down, and he's not letting up. And good for him, because he's pissed, as you should be, as you very well should be. Israel Prime Minister on Wednesday brushed off President Biden's call for a significant de-escalation of the conflict in Gaza, saying he is determined to continue the operation against the terrorist organization Hamas. There you go. Israel gets it. They make the distinction. They're not out there to target the Palestinians. They're out there to target Hamas. I know I'm repeating myself. How the hell can you be more clear on this? But the Democrats want to treat it all political. They want to treat it, I still can't formulate an opinion of what the hell they're doing. Let me know in the comments of what you guys think. I'm confused, man. I don't know what I don't know what their end game is on this. Like, what is your end game on supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization that just doesn't want death to Israel, by the way? They want death to America, the West, Western civilization. So I don't know what their end goal of all this is, and it's very confusing. Politics is like a game, right? You've seen that movie Game of Thrones. It's very much like a game, and I don't know what they're doing in this chess game. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to create more conflict in the Middle East so that they can create another war, or destabilize the Middle East so they can go in. I don't know what their end game here is, and I hope that's not it, because we got a lot of stuff to worry about here, especially with Joe Biden's spending. But I'm curious to know, you guys read a lot too. What do you think the Democrats' end game is on all of this? Let me know in the comments. And as you guys know, I read them and I find them fascinating. A lot of you guys link me articles. You tell me to check stuff out, including books, and I do. I really do take to heart everything you guys write. Just as Biden is facing pressure from the oppressive arm of his own party on the issue. Biden spoke to the Prime Minister earlier Wednesday, and the White House said the two had a detailed conversation on the state of events in Gaza, Israel's progress in degrading the capabilities of Hamas and other terrorist elements, and ongoing diplomatic efforts by regional governments and the United States. The president conveyed to the Prime Minister that he expected a significant de-escalation today on the path of a ceasefire. Who the hell are you to say, oh, well, I expect this? You're not the one that's getting rockets launched at you, man. You're not the one that's surrounded by countries that want to obliterate you and have you cease to exist off this planet. So this dole of a president, Joe Biden, I'm sorry for being disrespectful to our president, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but it pisses me off when you're not supporting our allies. You should be doing everything you possibly can to support Israel at this time. It's just, that is what it is. It's clear as day. They're our allies, and they're being freaking bombed. So help them. It's that simple. It's not hard. It, honest to God, isn't. Unbelievable, man. It really gets me going. It really gets me going when we're full on supporting a terrorist organization. When the hell did we start getting into that business? Does nobody remember September 11th? 10 years ago, maybe? No, nobody? Terrorists kind of flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center. One into the Pentagon. Almost one into the White House. Ended up, I don't remember what it was, maybe Flight 93 went into Pennsylvania, right into the ground. I know one of them was targeted for the White House for a little bit. Nobody remembers that. Nobody wants to have that conversation. Nobody wants to talk about all the terrorists that killed American troops. We don't care about that anymore. Unbelievable. It is so unbelievable where we have gone. He added that he is determined to continue this operation until its aim is met. Good for him. Good for Israel. Israel has been responding to rocket attacks from Hamas with measures of its own, including airstrikes targeting key Hamas military complexes. Take them all out, man. Take them all out. The state is facing criticism for the reported 200 plus Palestinians killed, which is terrible. Everybody agrees it's terrible when civilians die, kids die. Who in their right mind would be like, that's awesome, man. That's good stuff. Good. No, that person would be extremely evil, and that's disgusting. Nobody wants to see civilians die, but that is casualties that happen during war. That's what happens, when rockets are launched in small areas. That's what happens when Hamas is using apartment buildings. That's what happens. And you know what? As civilians, you should ask Hamas to leave because you don't want to see your family blown up no more. Again, maybe I'm just ignorant in all this. Maybe I'm just an idiot. And I'm fully happy to say, fine, I'm a dumbass on all this stuff. What the hell do I know? Maybe I should just shut up. But like I said, if rockets are being shot at me, you deserve to get your ass kicked. That's all I'm saying. So there you have it. You have Joe Biden being a dole, and I'm glad that Israel's not listening to him. It does go on here to say that Hamas has launched over 3,000 rockets into Israel since the conflict started 9 days ago, and the state's Iron Dome has intercepted and dismantled more than 90% according to its military. 3,000 rockets, could you imagine if majority of those actually got through? How the conversation would be flipped, right? How many civilians, how many Israeli civilians and Jews do you think would have died? Not just Jews. There's Christians there. There's Muslims and Arabs there. How many of them do you think they would die from these rocket attacks if the Iron Dome wasn't there? They don't want to talk about that, do they? No, because they have a system put in place because they know, again, that they would be extinguished, that they would be done. But we don't talk about crap like that because they got an Iron Dome that works, because they're defending themselves. The Biden administration has been supportive of Israel so far, giving clear backing of Israel's right to defend itself and emphasizing that Hamas is a nationally recognized terrorist organization. Sure. No, you've been clear about this stuff. You've been real clear by having divided on party lines that basically would have stopped Hamas from being supported by certain supporters. You have AOC here that's basically going out against Israel. You have Rashida Tlaib doing the same thing. And well, let's see what Bernie Sanders here has to say about it all. It says, I am extremely concerned. This is Bernie Sanders, by the way. I'm extremely concerned by the growing conflict in Israel and Palestine. I'm sure you are. Once again, we are seeing how the irresponsible actions of government allied right-wing extremists in Jerusalem can escalate quickly into devastating war. What a statement, man. What a statement. Let me see if I can do this in Bernie Sanders' voice here. I'm extremely concerned by the growing conflict in Israel and Palestine. The 1%. I'm sorry, that's something else. Once again, I can't even do it. My voice is going to go gone. I'm trying to make it a little bit more lighthearted, right? This has been some serious stuff, as it should be. People are dying left and right. Rockets are being firing. And we have freaking Rashida Tlaib here saying that POTUS plus Secretary Blinken, if you support a ceasefire, then get out of the way of the UN Security Council and join other countries in demanding it. Apartheid in chief prime minister will not listen to anyone asking nicely. He commits war crimes and openly violates international law. But again, we're not going to talk about Hamas being a terrorist organization. We're only going to pinpoint at one side, show one side. We're not going to show the devastation that's happening to Israel. We're not going to show the devastation that Hamas does to Israel as well. We just won't talk about that. We won't talk about the 3,000 rockets. Of course, she wouldn't post anything like that. Why? Because she loves Hamas. She loves terrorist organizations. And how can you say she doesn't? How could you say she doesn't? That's all I'm saying. That's my opinion. I might be wrong. I'm not making any allegations here against anybody. Just my opinion on what I'm seeing based on the evidence presented. I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong. But guys, I tend not to be wrong too often. That's a nice little kudos to me. Now, this is breaking news, okay? So I just did all that stuff on Israel. There's breaking news here. This just came out. This is written by Carlos Garcia. Israel and Hamas militants reportedly agree to cease fire. Let's read this. The deadly conflict between Israel and Hamas militants will be coming to an end soon after a ceasefire was reportedly reached between the two parties. We'll see if that actually goes through. I don't know if it's for sure, but my hope is that there is a ceasefire. I don't want to see this continually happen. But look, if you're not, then Israel, keep doing what you're doing. The ceasefire was reported Wednesday by Channel 12 News in Israel. A senior Hamas official appeared to confirm the news during the interview on Lebanon's TV, according to Reuters. I think that the ongoing efforts regarding the ceasefire will succeed. This is a Hamas political official saying that. I expect a ceasefire to be reached within a day or two, and the ceasefire will be on the basis of mutual agreement. Sure, they're saying that. I have a feeling Hamas is like, they're blowing the crap out of us. We are devastated. We should probably stop because Israel has done some major damage on Hamas, and rightfully so. And Israel's coming out on top on this. I know they're saying it's a mutual agreement. Israel's doing just fine, folks. Israel is doing just fine here. CNN also reported that Hamas officials told CNN that a ceasefire was imminent, possibly within 24 hours. The conflict has been raging for 10 days, during which hundreds of rockets have been fired at Israel from militants in the Gaza Strip. While the nation's vaunted Iron Dome defense system was able to intercept most rockets, and we said it was about 90% of them, of the 3,000 that was shot at them. Some were able to slip past onto civilian areas, but we don't talk about that. We won't talk about the bombs that are slipping into the schools and hospitals in Israel. It's only an issue when it goes the other way, according to Rashida Tlaib, Bernie Sanders, the Democrats, anybody that's a Democrat from that matter. Unless there's a Democrat out there that is pro-Israel and against Hamas. Haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure they exist. I'm sure there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 out there. Palestinians and their allies also rioted and attacked Israelis in several cities across the country. But Rashida Tlaib won't post that, right? Ilhan Omar wouldn't post stuff like that because we all know their agenda. We all know where they really lie, okay? You don't have to sit there. You could read between the lines, guys. They don't have to sit there and say death to Jews, okay? We all know that's where they lie. They won't say it. They won't admit it. At this point, it's kind of a little obvious, right? I have friends that are like that won't say they're pro-Hamas because it's a recognized terrorist organization, but they'll do the same exact thing Rashida Tlaib's doing. They'll do the exact same thing the Democrats are doing here by posting stuff that's basically totally propaganda. That's basically making Israel look bad, but they won't point the finger at Hamas at any way, shape, or form. Hamas is a holier than thou group. They're not a terrorist organization. They're only referring to them as Palestinians. They're not referring to the Hamas specifically. So we all know where they lie. When somebody talks like that, you kind of get it, right? They don't have to. And who in the right mind would say something like that, right? Because they know the pushback that would be given on them. But deep down inside, we all get it. We all get it. We can read between the lines. We know what your agenda is. Israel. Authorities say 12 deaths have been documented from the conflict, while on the Palestinian side, officials say 228 have perished. Critics of Israel in the U.S. were angered greatly when President Joe Biden said in a statement that Israel had a right to defend itself against such rocket attacks. Why get angered by that? Doesn't it seem like common sense? But again, the Democrats and the left, what seems like common sense isn't common sense. Again, these are the people that got upset of an officer shooting a black person that was stabbing another black person. And they got upset because they shot the person that was stabbing and trying to kill another black person. They got upset over that. Joy Behar said that officer should have shot in the air or shot the guy in the legs or the butt. I did a whole episode on that. I laughed my ass off. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard, but also the dumbest thing I've ever heard because this person probably gets paid millions of dollars to go on air on a network and say that stuff. Unbelievable. And the network doesn't care. The network's going, hey, that was a pretty stupid thing to say. We probably shouldn't have said that. Joy, can you not talk anymore? It's just rampant on how dumb the Democrats are acting right now. And I'm not saying that Republicans are little angels. They say stupid stuff too, but we call them out on it. Okay. So it's really, really mind-boggling. Is anybody else just completely just baffled, or am I the only one here? Because again, it's a one-way conversation, right? I'm talking into a camera and I'm trying to talk to all of you, and it's more or less me having a conversation with you, and you were hopefully reciprocating in the comments, but also by liking and subscribing. That'd be great. Thank you. But you get what I'm saying is, I don't know if I'm the only, I feel like I'm crazy at times where it's like, is this really that so batshit crazy that am I the only one that thinks this is? Because I kind of watch Crowder and he makes his jokes and stuff. I love Steven. I love Ben Shapiro. Guys, I watch them every single day. I love the Hodge twins. But I don't really see I don't want to say the outrage because that's overplayed by the Democrats and the left. But you get what I'm saying? Like the energy behind it of just like, I don't see Ben baffled. It seems like all this stuff just kind of makes sense to him. Whereas me, it's like, I get the aspect like, hey, it makes sense. They want the Jews to die. They want to get rid of them, which is why they're launching rockets in it. I get that aspect of it, but it's like, why? What is the Democrats' like end game in all this? Like, what are they profiting from this? Is it votes? Is it supporters giving them money that want to see Israel attacked? I don't know, man. I guess I got to read up more on this stuff, and I just got to reflect on it. I'm just completely baffled. And by the way, I don't think there is one clear answer. I don't think there's any viewer out there that's like, yep, this is exactly it. This is what they're profiting from. I mean, how the hell would we know? Do you know what I mean? We don't have the behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on with the Democratic Party. We can only make guesses. So if anybody leaves me a comment like, this is it, this is exactly what they're doing, don't be a knucklehead, okay? We don't really know what their end game is. There's no way of finding out unless they actually come out and say, this is why we're doing it. We're profiting from this. We want to see death to all Jews. And we're also receiving a lot of money from corporations that want to see it happen. And we want to take the oil in the Middle East. And we want to go in and create an uproar in the Middle East so that ultimately, we can manufacture more weapons. We can sell more weapons because we're spending money on the ass. Like, who the hell knows, guys? Who knows? Who knows? Critics of Israel were again angered greatly when President Joe Biden ultimately supported Israeli defense. Earlier on Wednesday, the White House said in a readout between Biden and Israeli Prime Minister The president had made it clear he expected significant de-escalation today on a path to a ceasefire. The prime minister of Israel appeared to push back on that demand, and rightfully damn so, in public statement assuring Israel citizens that he was determined to continue this operation until its aim is met, which makes me think that Hamas is the one that wants the ceasefire. I mean, I'm sure Israel does too. They don't want to be launching rockets every single day. One, it doesn't look good. It creates an unstable Middle East, but I don't picture the prime minister of Israel going out of his way going like, hey, can we stop this? I think Israel's doing pretty damn well for themselves right now, and I think they're kind of obliterating Hamas. I think Hamas is sitting there very weakened, very going like, holy crap, we're getting our ass kicked, and basically tapping out. That's my guess. But again, the whole premise of me showing this, again, is one, it's breaking news. So we'll see if the ceasefire actually happens, whether it's today or the next couple of days. I don't know. It will probably come up again where they're starting to shoot rockets at each other again. We'll see who starts it the next time. Then maybe I'll rip Israel for starting to shoot rockets. I don't think that's going to happen. Usually Israel only launches rockets when it has a reason to do so. But again, if you talk to any Palestinian or you talk to any Hamas person or any Democrat or left, that's not the case, by the way. Israel has no reason to launch rockets, guys. They just do it willy-nilly. They say, fuck it, let's launch one, baby. No, that doesn't happen. At least as far as I'm concerned, haven't seen it, haven't heard of it. But just because I haven't seen it, haven't heard of it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's all I'm saying. Israel could have definitely done it, and they should be ripped a new asshole if they do it. And I will be here once I find out if they did it. I'll start saying, Israel, you're a bunch of idiots. You shouldn't do that. You deserve to get rockets launched at you. So that's where I'm at with all this. And by the way, I think a lot of people would agree on that. You punch somebody, you deserve to get punched back. I know that as Christians, we're supposed to say you turn the cheek. Not on something like that. Not on something like that. Self-defense, baby, all the way. All the way. And it just shows you what our allies think of Joe Biden, is they don't care what he says. Whereas you look at, if Trump said, guys, all right, let's chill a little bit, which I don't think Trump would do that. Trump would be like, just take, how many rockets do you need? You don't got to pay us. How many do you need, man? Heck, we might even gone over there and just supported them. Trump loves Israel. I mean, America loves Israel at the end of the day. It's the Democrats on the left that don't. But, if that's what an ally thinks of Biden, can you imagine what Russia thinks of Joe Biden? Can you think of what Iran thinks of Joe Biden? Can you think of what China thinks of Joe Biden? All these foreign countries. The guy's a joke, okay? We could say the same thing about Trump a little bit on the way he acted and the way he called, the North Korean guy, what is it, Kim Jong-un, Rocket Man, which is also in Sarah Huckabee Sanders' book. Check it out, great book. But he talks about it. He talks about how he talked to Nikki Haley about it. He talked to Sarah about it. I believe it's in both their books. But, he called him Rocket Man. It was funny. It was hilarious. Now, as a president, probably shouldn't be talking like that anyways, because you're representing our country. But, for the times and just all the crazy crap that the left were doing, I enjoyed it. And I kind of want it back a little bit because I miss Trump. I miss the way he ran this country. Nobody messed with us. And look at all the peace agreements that were done in the Middle East. The second that he's out, you got Joe Biden, a guy that's shuffling his feet around the White House, is running the show. And now you have all this stuff going on. But folks, hey, that is the Thursday's news. Again, please take this time to support the show by hitting that like button. Also share it all over social media. Share it on Reddit. Any social media platforms that help support this conservative talk show so that we can grow even greater. It does help when you guys help me out. And I really do appreciate all your comments, all of you liking, subscribing, and dedication to the show. And I will see you all here tomorrow on The Bald Brad Show.